Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of ZipTalks. Today we have a very special guest, Ira Trivedi. She is a best-selling author and a yoga acharya. Ira has written 8 books. Her book, India in Love, Marriage and Sexuality in the 21st Century, is a landmark book on India's new social revolution in marriage and sexuality. Her books have been translated into several languages. She has won several awards for her work, including the UK Media Award for her work on bride trafficking and the New Indian Express Devi Women's Award for dynamism and innovation. In 2017, she was honored as one of BBC's 100 most influential women in the world. In addition to her writing, Ira is a master of yoga or yoga acharya, has 2 yoga shows in India, and is the founder of Namami Yoga that teaches yoga to underprivileged children. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Ira. It's my privilege to host you today. Uh, I understand you're in Goa and you've been having problems with the network, so I'm really grateful that you managed to take out time and got the network connected to come on this show.
Thank you. I know it's one of during lockdown, it's sort of one of the things that I think every single one of us has dealt with at some point. Internet going, internet unstable. And I think Goa, because they don't actually allow cell towers, has a whole new problem. But it's always good. We have challenges, we learn from them.
Yes, yes. But thank you so much. So I'm going to get right into it. I'd like to start by asking you about what is your fitness philosophy? What is it that drives you and motivates you? Do you have any fitness goals? What is your philosophy?
So my philosophy, Radha, is to integrate fitness um, into our real life, in a very, very, very holistic way. So I don't actually consider fitness as something different. I don't consider it as a 1 hour activity. Um, Fitness needs to be a holistic fitness, and it needs to sort of pervade in all aspects of your life. And that's what I love about yoga, because yoga is not just an asana practice, it's an entire way of life.
Oh, I love that. That it should be a holistic experience. Fitness should be holistic. I love that point. But tell me, you went to Wellesley College. You did an MBA from Columbia. How did you take up writing as a career? What got you into writing?
Radha, in my my journey has been, I think, in life in general, has been such a meandering path. It's like a river, you just sort of keep on flowing wherever the riverbed goes. Um, I've always sort of had very focused goals and destinations, but then somewhere along the way, the riverbed changes direction, That's how I felt it in my own life. So, for example, when I was at Wellesley, I wanted to be a doctor. I was like, I want to be a doctor, but then, um, and then I said, okay, I went in with that, but then my family is all economists, so I ended up doing a degree in economics. And lo and behold, after I graduated from college, I ended up writing a book, and the book did really well. And I still wanted to go on that economic sort of path, and I ended up doing an MBA right afterwards, saying that I don't know what I want to do in economics, so let me do an MBA now and get a new perspective of economics at play in the real world, Um, and then I did my MBA, and then I was still writing, and lo and behold, the MBA was over. I'd written a couple of books, and my heart wasn't set on the MBA, but it was more set on writing. And so it was kind of strange. I had this goal of going into business and doing all of that, but then what actually led me there, I stayed on the path. I stayed pretty focused, but then my I guess my passion, what I really connected with, that took over very, very organically, very, very organically. I can say the same about yoga as well. Even with yoga, I never aspired to be a yoga teacher. As I was writing, I found that yoga was a beautiful way to maintain balance, you know. And when I was doing that, it just, everything, just the path, the path sort of swept me along, and one thing after the other thing after the other thing. And we're here today, juggling between a yoga and a writing career.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you about what interested you into yoga, but it's nice the way you described how, a river meandering and how your path got you into yoga. But juggling both yoga and writing as careers, how do you integrate the two? How do you balance the two?
So, Radha, that's a good question. On a practical level, I'll tell you how I do it. I segment my time. So when I'm writing, then I try not to be teaching yoga. Of course, I have my daily practice, but I try not to be involved with the yoga teaching part of things. So what used to work really well for me was doing retreats, was leading retreats. So I would sort of write and then I would do retreats. And so like, it's like a writing retreat, yoga retreat, writing retreat, yoga retreat. So all of life was a retreat, but it was in these two different departments. But what's happened now actually, but life changes, life changes. Now what's happened is that I've started, as you know, an online yoga studio, and it's pretty much, again, it was so organic. I started it during the lockdown, thinking this is a way for me to teach people. And just one by one by one, it grew from 10 people into 10 of my closest students into having now, I would say, 200 people coming to our yoga studio, which is pretty much like, I think if there was an offline yoga studio, which was popular, it would be like that. We have multiple classes, and it's so
Yes.
nice because we have people from all over the world coming. If you are in a physical space, you're limited to just that neighborhood. Here, we can just go so wide, and we really, really liked it in that sense. So it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. So now I wonder how I'm going to go back to writing because I don't think I could just leave the yoga business, and and do writing. But that's a new challenge, like as the river meanders, I'm gonna have to find a way.
Yes.
Maybe I'll have to integrate a writing life into my daily life. I will no longer be able to segment it like my grandmother. My grandmother was a writer, and she wrote so many books. She was a prolific writer. And what she did is that she woke up and she did her household tasks. She was a very traditional, quiet Indian lady. She would do her, and then she would sit down to write no matter what by 11 o'clock every day, 11 o'clock to lunch, maybe it was even 10 o'clock to lunchtime. And that was her writing, 10 to 2,
Wow.
and that was it. And after 2 o'clock, it was back to the family, in the evening with,
Yes.
all of our other social activities. And this is what she did. So maybe I have to take a leaf from her book and learn how to do that in my life.
Yes. No, I'm so glad you started an online yoga studio, and that's how we got introduced because I started yoga classes during the lockdown. And if you hadn't started that, we wouldn't have met. So I'm really grateful that you started the online yoga studio. But just one question on your writing. You wrote that book, India in Love, Marriage, and Sexuality in the 21st Century. I've always wanted to ask you, what inspired you to write that book? And that was a best-selling book of yours.
Yeah. So Radha, I'll tell you what inspired me. It was just seeing the change around me. India was going through this very strange sexual revolution. It still is actually. And as someone in their 20s at the time I wrote the book, I found myself right at the nexus of all of this, the nexus of
Yes,
pressure to get married, friends all in the marriage boat. A lot of these traditions clashing with the modern culture that I was also part of, which was
yes,
dating and mating and all of that. So it began with that, but it morphed into something so much bigger because as I began my research and I began learning, I realized that, wow, something really incredible is happening in India, which is going to change the social mores for centuries to come, And that's sort of how things proceeded.
wow. Okay, I'm going to come back to yoga now. Um, what advice would you give to people who are just getting initiated into yoga? And a lot of people think yoga is slow, it's boring, and so they prefer to go to a gym and do the cardio and the machines. So I really would like you to use this medium to give some advice to people who are thinking of getting into yoga.
I would say begin with 10 minutes a day. If you like going to the gym, go to the gym. But yoga has immense benefits. The way I'll tell you the analogy I use. When you're not feeling well, you go to a general practitioner, right? A GP is great. A GP can solve your problems. But if you have a specific problem, you go to a surgeon or a specialist, and that specialist will work is a specialist. So any exercise is like it's like going to a GP, right? It's doing good to you eventually, right? It's
Yes.
doing good. Whatever
Yes.
you do is going to be great for all of your vitals, right?
Right.
But if you do yoga, yoga is such a scientific, such a targeted practice. Like it works on digestive system, endocrine system, circulation system in such pointed ways. That's why people can transform their health very quickly through yoga, or, in a very steady yoga practice. They can reverse diabetes, they can cure fibromyalgia, they can cure their joint problems, they can cure arthritis. Other forms of exercise may not be as effective in a general level, in a general way. I'm
Yes.
talking about a general lifestyle, right? I'm not talking about, say, your physiotherapy, for example. So that's the thing with yoga, and especially since we're combining the breath, the integration of breath and movement together is extremely powerful, and yoga actually provides that. So this is why I have always felt that yoga is definitely a very, very holistic kind of a practice, which is very, very good, and very, very powerful. So for people who want to start yoga, I would say just begin with 10 minutes. I have a book called The 10-Minute Yoga Solution. Don't try and do more than 10 minutes. Just do 10 minutes and see where it takes you. You know, if you try and do, hey, I want to get to an hour and a half of yoga without doing anything, then you're
Yes.
going to fall off. So do what's manageable. And then it's like running. When you start running, initially, you maybe will only able to run for 6 minutes. Do 6 minutes.
That's
Increase it
right.
to 7 minutes. Even a 10-minute run is amazing. I've been doing 10-minute runs during the lockdown. I go
Yes.
outside and I walk and I do a 10-minute run.
Yes.
I'll do sometimes a 21-minute run maximum. I don't really go beyond 21 minutes. And I find it great. I find 21 minutes of running plus 21 minutes of walking, and I find it really good.
Yes.
So in the morning I'll do yoga, and in the evening I'll do running, and I really like it, especially
Yes.
during lockdown because such little movement, right? So
Yes.
I found that really, really effective.
So it's great that you talked about running and yoga, because I was going to ask you that would you advise people to do a balance of do yoga, but if there's some other exercise that you're doing, do that. A lot, because a lot of people ask if you want to lose weight, um, should we do yoga? Should we just do yoga? Will it help us to lose weight?
Yeah, it will. It will. There's no very easy, effective answer. Yes, it will. I just did a weight loss program. I just finished doing one, and in the weight loss program, on average, everyone lost a kilo and a half every week, on
Wow.
average.
Wow.
So, yeah, in 2 weeks, they're losing 3 kgs by not even being hungry, by just following a yogic diet and following a yoga practice. It's like there was no element of starvation, very, very easy, effective diets, and everyone lost weight. It was incredible.
Yes. Yes. So, in your online classes, you also do make us all do the Surya namaskar. Would you like to talk a little bit about it? I also hear about this concept that a lot of people once a week they do 108 Surya namaskars. I've always wanted to ask, what is the meaning of that 108? Is there a meaning? Is there some symbol to it?
108 is typically like an auspicious number. It's the number of beads in a mala,
Yes.
From a numerical perspective, it's numerology considers it a very good number. 8 plus 1 is 9. So 108 has always been like it's kind of based on astrology and stuff. It's always been a very positive number and numerology. So a lot of
Yes.
us have always used in Hinduism, we use 108 for a lot of things. In the yantras and the mantras, it's 108, um, in a lot of those practices. And that's why I was brought into Surya Namaskars. But in the sun salutation practice, there's no such scientific evidence. In fact, 108 is not that great for you. I never do 108. I'll stick to 21,
Right.
max, 25 max,
Yes.
because it's very heavy on the back, actually, 108. So unless you're super fit, otherwise doing 21 is the max I'll go, and then follow up with equally amount of back exercises to ease any
Yes.
tension from the back. But I don't really go beyond that, and personally or with groups, either.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a very important point that you made. And, if people are doing it, they should be careful about the back. And that's why I think with supervision or with a master like you, one should actually learn how to do it before trying it
Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
just going randomly and doing it, that's not really the
Yes.
best
Yes.
either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, you talked a bit about what you started over the pandemic and the lockdown, but how have you seen yoga and the pandemic relationship? Has anything changed? Is there something which is happening in the world of yoga which is different, which has been different in the last 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the online pandemic has taken yoga online and it's been great, I think yoga teachers initially didn't have any place to teach, If you're a yoga teacher and if you didn't have a job at a studio, where would you teach? It was problematic. Like everyone was desperate for opportunities to teach. But now you can just start a yoga studio in your house. You can just take a small room, have just a plain white wall, put two plants, and that's your yoga studio, so every single person, like, and I've seen that, like, a lot of yoga teachers have just started taking morning classes. They take a morning batch, they take an evening batch, they
Yes,
just do these various batches. And there's, groups of, they have 8 to 10 students, and they do it for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, and that's how they do it. Our yoga studio is a little bit more, it kind of gives more options because we have
right.
so many classes, so many teachers. So that's why we're kind of like going, like, we're like an online yoga studio, right? We have teachers, we have classes, we have sort of a tech team, an operations team, we have events. So we're running it like a proper online yoga studio, not an individual teacher taking classes online. But that's been happening. It's like it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm really, really happy that people have gotten more access to teachers, and students have more access to students. It's great. This would not have been possible just till a few months ago.
No, absolutely. And yoga has come into the living rooms and the bedrooms of
Yeah.
people who've been wanting to learn yoga as well and didn't have access to a studio maybe. So it's great that that has happened. Um, so Ira, what two tips would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners?
So the one thing is, I think, start with a very basic practice of yoga. Start with 10 minutes a day. Don't make it an hour and a half, but I think every single person on this planet should do 10 minutes of yoga a day. And try to make it a habit, same as brushing your teeth or going for a little walk, learning a few asanas that suit your body. Everyone's body is different, right? Everyone has
Yes.
particular ailments. Someone may have a stiff back, shoulders, wrists, legs, whatever it is. Learn those three asanas and do them every single day. That's tip number one. Number two is, the breathing. The pranayama is incredibly effective, especially during pandemic, and I would really encourage people to learn that as well. 5 minutes a day, that's all it is. So really encouraging people to take these two routes.
Yes, uh, 10 minutes of yoga every day and also doing the breathing exercises. Good, healthy takeaways for all of us. I can't let you go before doing the rapid fire round. So I hope you're ready for it. I'm going to say 5 words. You have to tell me the word that comes into your mind when I say a word. But I've picked 5 words for you. Ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. The first word is mind.
Writing. Is that good? Books. Is that okay? I know I'm,
Yes.
I'm doing it very rapid fire, like, okay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's supposed to be that. Body.
Shirshasan, headstand.
Ah, yeah, the viewers are going to see a photograph of yours doing that, which I've put in the, which is there. Um, Next word is soul.
Yoga.
Yeah, that's next one. Yes. Um, Heart.
Heart, the word that comes to my mind is actually Anahata chakra when you said heart. The first thing that popped into my head, which is the heart chakra.
Nice. And the last one is books.
Nikhil and Ria, which is a book that I wrote, which a few years ago, which I really, really loved. So that's what comes into mind.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Ira. I really enjoyed
Thank you,
talking to
Radha.
you. And I think a lot of takeaways for our viewers, especially do 10 minutes of yoga a day and the breathing. But it's so wonderful to see you balancing both your writing career and your yoga career. And now you've brought yoga to all our homes. So thank you so much. Viewers, you can find this talk on YouTube channel ZipTalks, on podcast Spotify and Apple iTunes ZipTalks, and on Instagram page Zip2Fitness. Thank you so much.